Right now, intense alert day conditions are making their way through southern Wisconsin. We'll bring you live updates on the latest conditions for the region. And keeping phones out of the classroom, how a new device is helping Edgewood High School keep learning distraction-free. Plus, it'll cost you more to take care of man's best friend this year. The rise in prices being seen at veterinary clinics across the country. It's all ahead on News 3 Now at 10. And good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Eric Franke. Sarah Carlson is off tonight, and we begin tonight with severe weather as it makes its way through southern, also central Wisconsin. The First Warn Weather Team has really been tracking this system since late last week, and we have a crew live in southern Wisconsin giving you the very latest updates. But we begin with Chief Meteorologist Alex Harrington. And Alex, what do we have as far as things being reported right now?
Eric, good news for southern Wisconsin. We haven't had any storm reports here, but up towards central Wisconsin, over towards the Eau Claire, they had observed tornadoes on the northern leading edge of this line of thunderstorms. It's continuing to move off towards the south and towards the east. We're not completely out of the woods yet, but as we look at radar 3000, take note north and west of Juneau County, north and west of where Maddie is right now, we have what's called an outrunning cool boundary. This is called an outflow boundary. I'll circle it right here for you. Actually, I'll do a little bit better job of circling this with this red line here. This rain-cooled boundary out ahead of this line of thunderstorms is usually an indication that that cool air is blowing out ahead of that line of thunderstorms, which could signal a weakening trend. And we did say earlier this evening that we would see this line moving into southern Wisconsin, and it likely would be weakening with time, but it extends all the way from just north and west of Juneau and Adams counties out into portions of the state of Iowa. Plenty of lightning, occasional warnings. Damaging winds is likely the mode that we're going to start to see this line turn on as it continues to progress off towards the south and towards the east. Just look at how warm these temperatures are out ahead of this line. There's plenty of fuel out there for these showers and thunderstorms as they move into temperatures at 10 o'clock at night that are still near 80 degrees across the area. And with temperatures still near 80 degrees across the area, again, that is that fuel for the continuation of strong to severe thunderstorms, at least through the early morning hours as we go into Tuesday. As we put future track into motion, this could be good news. I said that line of cool air was pushing out ahead of the main line that could help to weaken the line. But future track bringing that line of thunderstorms, let's say, all the way down to the Highway 151 corridor, right down to Madison, over to I-94 and areas toward the north, up towards the Dells, Juneau, Adams, Marquette, Green Lake County still could see some severe weather as we move through the next couple hours. Myself and Jacob will be here tracking that line of thunderstorms through the early morning hours. Coming up in Maine weather, we'll talk about why round one did not materialize, and we'll do another look at future track on this line that's moving through the area and talk about the next rain chance. All
right, Alex, thank you. And as we mentioned, we do have a crew in the northern part of our viewing area near Wisconsin Dells to bring you the very latest updates. And we check in now with our Maddie Heimsch tonight. Maddie?
Hey, Eric, like you said, in the Wisconsin Dells right now, and we've been here since early evening, and we've seen a little bit of weather activity, some intermittent rain, and some pretty heavy gusts of wind. It's a little windy here right now. What we haven't seen quite yet is any of those storms materialize, no tornado or thunderstorm activity where we are. We did see a couple of tornado watches in Richland and Adams counties. Now, like I said, we're in the downtown Wisconsin Dells, technically in Columbia County, but kind of on that Columbia, Sauk, Juneau, Adams border there, so we're just a little bit east of where those tornado watches are. The sun obviously has gone down since we got here early evening. What hasn't gone down is any of that heat or humidity. It's still pretty humid out there, the kind of weather that you feel right before a storm is going to come. But like Alex was mentioning, whether those storms do come to us or that cap kind of stays on them, well, I'm not a meteorologist, so I can't tell you, but we're going to stay out here, continue watching out for those storm conditions. For now, I'll send it back to you, Eric, reporting live in downtown Wisconsin Dells. I'm Maddie Heimsch, News 3 Now.
Maddie, thank you. A Wisconsin warden charged in connection to the deaths of multiple inmates had a second court hearing this afternoon in Dodge County. Randall Hepp, former warden of the Waupun Correctional Facility, was charged with the deaths of two inmates. Ultimately, the courts chose not to give Hepp any jail time, sentencing him to a Class C misdemeanor for violating state and institutional laws, a $500 fine plus court costs. The judge presiding over the case calling the sentencing symbolic because Hepp was not aware of the living conditions at the facilities that led to those deaths. A restaurant on Madison's east side is now open 2 months after a Metro bus hit the back of the building. Asian House restaurant's stove and hood were severely damaged, which meant they couldn't make any meals. With time and insurance, they were able to make those repairs and now have a functioning kitchen. And while there's still work to be done, the restaurant's owner, Bonnie Huang, says they are ready to serve their customers.
The most important part for me right now is like I'm worried about like how to get all the customers know we are reopened and then getting them come back.
Asian House Restaurant, a main source of income for Bonnie's family. She says, although she doesn't expect a busy Monday, she cannot wait to see her customers come back. A seismic change will be coming to Madison's Edgewood High School as the administration there looks to improve learning. Our Kyle Pazorski shows us the change.
We wanted to go a route of a little more strict cell phone policy.
That was the decision Edgewood High School's administration came to after 2 years of discussions on student phone use. Beginning in the fall of this year, the school will implement the use of these lockable pouches to keep cell phones out of class. Principal Jerry Zander says the change in policy is something many schools are moving towards.
We've been looking at a bunch of schools and what they've done, and we've kind of looked at best practices, and that's part of our decision-making process.
How it works is students will lock their phone in the pouches upon entering the school. They will then unlock them at the end of the day when they leave.
The pouches allow our students to still have the phone on them at all times, so if there was an emergency, they do have access to them.
Zander says putting this into effect will improve the mental health of students, eliminate distractions, and foster a better community.
Although, we might have some upset students right now and disappointed students, I think once they realize that every student does not have their phone during the school day, they'll realize that it is in the best interest of us as a community.
In Madison, Kyle Pazorski, News 3 Now.
Kyle, thank you. Now, Zander further says overall the response from parents there has been positive. The Trump administration and Harvard University faced off in a Massachusetts federal courtroom. The university filed a lawsuit a week ago after the administration announced it was cutting billions of dollars in federal research money. The White House says it was a result of a breakdown in discussions over combating anti-Semitism on campus. Harvard claims the freezing of the money is unconstitutional because it violates the First Amendment. And UW-Madison has confirmed that all 27 of its international students and alumni have regained active visa status. The university says those reversals started last Thursday and continued throughout the weekend. The institution also claiming that neither it nor the students affected were given a reason as to why their visas were terminated. Now the affected students and alumni can continue their studies and postgraduate training. President Trump preparing to mark his 100th day in office tomorrow, and today the administration put up posters of people it identified as undocumented immigrants arrested for crimes outside the White House. According to a CBS News poll, 56% of Americans approve of his program to deport immigrants who are in the United States illegally. The White House is still facing questions after 3 children, all U.S. citizens, were deported to Honduras with their mothers.
If you choose to have a U.S. citizen child, knowing you're in this country legally, you put yourself in that position. You put your family in that position.
The Trump administration's border czar there says there have been around 139,000 deportations since President Trump took office. A new CBS poll shows President Trump steadily losing support when it comes to the economy. 51% of those polled approve of his handling of the economy in the month of March. Now only 42% do, and nearly 50% of Americans feel his policies are making them worse off. Even though inflation and mortgage rates have both fallen a bit since President Trump took office, consumer sentiment has also fallen, with confidence in the economy dropping 32% since January. Parents have something else to be concerned about: the rising cost of baby gear that they need. President Trump's 145% tariffs on imports from China as the prices for leading brands of strollers up by hundreds of dollars, while the cost of car seats has gone up on average by 20%. Global shipping company DHL says it'll restart shipments worth more than $800 from businesses to consumers in the U.S. Earlier this month, DHL temporarily suspended those shipments. The company said the move was due to a significant increase in red tape at customs. DHL now says those customs regulations have been adjusted after they had a constructive dialogue with U.S. officials. Well, a new report shows the cost of owning a pet is going up. According to the pet care service Rover, dog owners can expect a 7% hike in expenses this year, and cats could run their humans about 10% more. The average lifetime cost of care for a 10-year-old dog adds up to more than $34,000, while a 16-year-old cat costs $32,000.
Surgeries that used to be $5,000 to $7,000, emergency surgeries are now exceeding $10,000.
And experts say one way to keep your initial costs down: consider the financial benefits of adopting a dog or cat from a shelter. Pet owners can also switch over to dry kibble and shop secondhand. Well, the numbers are in for last week's NFL draft, and they are eye-opening. Around 600,000 people made their way to Green Bay for the three-day event. That is more than double the expected attendance of 250,000. Green Bay itself has a population of just over 100,000. It's the league's smallest market, of course. Green Bay residents say they are thankful the weekend turned out to be a safe one as well. The Green Bay Police Department says it made just one arrest and 8 people were ejected. The draft, the second major national event to be hosted in Wisconsin in the past year alone. The Republican National Convention took place in Milwaukee, of course, last July. Major events like these have a positive effect on the state's hospitality industry. The president of the Wisconsin Hotel and Lodging Association, Bill Elliott, says the state could see $90 million generated by the NFL draft. He also says the draft proves Wisconsin's aptitude when it comes to hospitality.
The draft shows that we can have a huge event, and it really shines that spotlight and shows people that Wisconsin is on the map when it comes to hosting these kind of activities. So it may not be about today, it may not be about next week, but it's about the business that it'll help generate for years to come.
And by the way, the NFL draft next year is set to be held in Pittsburgh. Still to come at 10, authorities investigate after a deadly boat crash in Florida, and Russia announces a ceasefire with Ukraine, where the White House says this week is make or break it when it comes to signing a peace deal.
You're watching News 3 Now at 10.
At least one person is dead, several others injured following a hit and run involving a ferry in Florida. Authorities say a private boat plowed into the ferry carrying 45 people in Clearwater last night near Tampa and then fled the scene. 6 patients on the ferry were declared trauma alerts, with 2 transported to the hospital by helicopter. The accident came at the end of the 17-day Sugar Sand Festival, and many people were taking that ferry back and forth for the event.
It came through where the captain sits, like he was pinned down with his console, and then the yacht just somehow pulled out and they rode away.
We just did our best to try to stay calm for the kids and the other families around us, and my husband actually went and helped other people that were on the boat with open wounds and things like that.
Now, the Coast Guard says it's identified the boat involved in the collision and that the 6 people on board were not injured. Florida Fish and Wildlife officials are leading the investigation into what went wrong. President Vladimir Putin announcing a temporary ceasefire in Russia's war with Ukraine next month, and it comes as President Trump is putting pressure on both sides to reach a peace deal. Natalie Brand reports from the White House.
As Russian strikes on Ukraine have continued amid ceasefire negotiations, Russian President Vladimir Putin is now calling for a 3-day pause in fighting starting May 8th. Ukraine wants an immediate ceasefire that lasts much longer. And Ukrainians say there is no trust in any proposals from Putin. President Trump has also signaled frustration with the Russian president, questioning on social media whether he truly wants to end the conflict.
Well, I want him to stop shooting, sit down and sign a deal.
President Trump met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky ahead of the Pope's funeral in Rome. He later suggested Zelensky may be willing to give up Crimea, which Zelensky has repeatedly ruled out.
Is Zelensky ready to give up Crimea, do you think, Mr. President? Oh, I think so, yeah.
No one wants peace more than Ukraine.
Marina Bayduk, executive director of United Help Ukraine, says Ukrainians are eager to learn the conditions of a potential peace deal and whether security guarantees will be a part of it.
We've seen in the past 3 years the bravery and resilience of Ukrainian people. They're fighting not just for their territories, they're fighting for their people.
The White House says this will be a critical week for negotiations. The president saying he wants a deal in 2 weeks or less. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Now, the Kremlin urged Ukraine to accept the ceasefire proposal and warned any violations will be met with an adequate and efficient response. Well, there has been a massive power outage in Europe affecting tens of millions of people across parts of Spain, Portugal, and France. Train stations and airports are at a standstill. Streetlights are out, leading to major traffic issues. The Portuguese grid operator said a rare atmospheric issue that affected the Spanish electrical system led to the outage. Well, the Vatican's Sistine Chapel is closed to tourists as cardinals prepare to elect the next pope. Officials now say the conclave to elect Pope Francis' successor will begin there next Wednesday. Francis was laid to rest over the weekend as 50 heads of state and delegations from 130 countries worldwide attended the funeral. He now rests near a corner of the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore and his headstone reading Franciscus. Severe weather moving across Wisconsin. The weather team been tracking these storms since last week. Chief Meteorologist Alex Harrington with more on when the threat may end.
Eric, the threat will likely end by the time we get to about 3 o'clock in the morning. But I just look at the sheer line and the expanse here, stretching all the way from east of Wausau, all the way down to La Crosse, all the way over to Mason City, this line of thunderstorms. The good news is overall there's been a weakening trend, but there's still a tornado warning to the east of Wausau where they've had confirmed tornadoes from Eau Claire across central Wisconsin, and that tornado warning still looking radar indicated well to our north. And if they can get a tornado warning up in La Crosse, in our environment in southern Wisconsin, we most certainly still have the potential for damaging winds, large hail, and the possibility of a tornado. We can't rule that out. That line's going to be moving into Juneau and Adams counties here momentarily. Big Flats at 10:19 p.m., so that's just in about 1 minute or so. The Viroqua area shortly after the newscast at 10:33, and then Adams at 10:35 p.m. Could be looking at least at some gusty winds, 30, 40, maybe 50 miles per hour, and some small hail and frequent lightning. As we look back into Iowa, as you take note, look at the line of thunderstorms here. They're broken into smaller clusters, and when they break apart like that, that can sometimes allow those thunderstorms updrafts to perk back up again. So we'll be keeping an eye on the potential. We're not completely out of the woods yet here in southern Wisconsin. Here's part of the reason why. These aren't our highs. These are our temperatures right now at 10:19, 78 Madison, 79 in Lone Rock, and 77 in Janesville. You add the dew points, that's the measure of moisture. It's in the muggy low to mid 60s across the area. So we have plenty of that atmospheric energy all the way from La Crosse, Camp Douglas areas to the south as that line presses off towards the south and towards the east. Still have that tornado watch in effect till 2 p.m. north and west of that Prairie du Chien to Richland Center to the Dells line as we keep a very close eye, myself and Jacob, who's back in the weather office right now. Now, Future Track is showing something good. As we get to 11 o'clock, that line gets into Camp Douglas to the Richland Center area. As we head towards 1 o'clock, perhaps still north and west of the Dells. But watch what happens as we get past 1 o'clock. That line evaporates or erodes. And our weather models all day have been consistent, showing that line weakening over time as we head towards 2, 3 or so o'clock in the morning, and then we'll replace that with windy conditions, clouds, and maybe an isolated shower on Tuesday. We still cannot rule out strong winds, hail, a tiny chance yet of that tornado tonight as that line progresses to the south and towards the east. So some good news here. Why did this not pan out to be a big day? And hopefully it doesn't yet throughout the course of the evening. Well, first, that cap did not break that we've been talking about for days. So we didn't get those earlier supercell thunderstorms. And while we're still tracking storms along a cold front, again, not entirely out of the woods yet, weather models show that those storms will eventually pose a weakening mode or a weakening trend as we head towards 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So that's all good news. We don't need any severe weather. 50s as temperatures cool down behind that weather system for highs on Tuesday. So stark contrast from our low 80s that we experienced today. Then we eye up the next weather event Wednesday going into Thursday. A good soaking rain across southern Wisconsin is expected, anywhere between 3/4 to 1 inch, maybe a little bit more than an inch down towards Janesville. And again, areas along the Wisconsin-Illinois border are still dealing with abnormally dry conditions to moderate drought conditions. So once we get through tonight, again, Jacob and I are here through and through. We'll transfer things over to Savannah at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, but things should be weakening at that point in time. Rain Wednesday and Thursday, and then just plain gorgeous by the time we get to next week.
And coming up in sports, Jack Nelson was the first Badger off the board, while the Stoughton native's mindset is just to prove himself at the next level. That's next on News 3 Now. The MRI confirmed what we all feared. Damian Lillard will miss the rest of the playoffs and unfortunately a big chunk, if not all of next year, after tearing his Achilles tendon in the first quarter of Game 4 last night. Dame will undergo surgery to repair it, and now the path for the Bucks to advance out of the first round for the first time since 2022 is a whole lot harder, on top of Tuesday being a must-win for Milwaukee.
I think everybody in the locker room know what the deal is. Got to go in Indiana, play some good basketball. Obviously, we don't have Dame, but the next guy got to step up. We got to do what we got to do. Move the ball, play together, try to win the game, and come back.
The wait was a little longer than expected, but it was worth it for Jack Nelson. The Stoughton native got the call in the 7th round that every kid growing up playing football dreams about. Atlanta selected the former Badger left tackle as the 218th pick in the draft. And for Nelson, his mindset is simple. Prove to the Falcons that he belongs in the league.
It's all about making the team and then, proving to that team that you belong. You're starting at the bottom of the totem pole. And, my goal is to prove I can play in the NFL as a rookie. I can play as a tackle. And then, it's just about doing whatever you need for that team, coming into work, getting it done, and then signing that second contract.
Well, teammate Elijah Hills earned a chance to prove that he can play at the next level. The former Badger defensive lineman received an invite to the 49ers rookie minicamp. Hills led Wisconsin in sacks last season, which was his lone year in Madison. And the draft might be over, but the Packers are still making moves. Green Bay is signing linebacker Isaiah Simmons to a one-year deal. The former 8th overall pick has spent 5 years in the league, where he played with the Cardinals and the Giants. As expected, both Jerry Kelly and Steve Stricker have officially committed to play in this year's AmFam Championship. The two fan favorites have combined for 3 AmFam Champ titles, with Kelly winning it in 2019 and 2021, while Strick took home the title 2 years ago. The AmFam Championship tees off for the first time ever at TPC, Wisconsin on June 6th. And the Brewers are off today, but over the weekend, Jackson Chourio collected his 100th RBI as a Brewer, and it only took him 175 games to do so. It's the second fastest to reach the milestone in franchise history, behind only Ryan Braun, who did it in 118 games. We're back after this.
And Alex is back. A final check of what's going on out there.
Not entirely out of the woods yet tonight for southern Wisconsin, as a line of thunderstorm stretches from central Wisconsin back into Iowa. Right now, just gusty winds, no severe thunderstorm warnings at this point in time. For Oka here in a couple minutes, and Adams, you're going to probably have some wind gusts approaching 30 to 40 miles per hour. Maybe some small pea-sized hail and also frequent lightning. But keeping an eye also on northern Iowa, those thunderstorms are going to move off towards the east. They'll make it into southwest Wisconsin areas, let's say 151 Madison, I-94, and points towards the north, before you start to see that weakening trend as we head towards 2 o'clock in the morning. Hopefully that will be the case, because if that is the case, then we dodged the cap earlier today, and much of southern Wisconsin maybe will spare thunderstorms later tonight. Nonetheless, we'll be here until that line is all the way through.
All right, keeping folks safe. Alex, Thank you, and thanks for joining us for News 3 Now at 10. Have a great night.